Hello everyone. Today I'll be going through the problems from Code Clash 1, the junior section. So let's get right into it. Okay, so moving on to the first problem. Uh, okay, a shop has announced that the price of every item has been doubled due to recent market changes. You're given an array of integers where each integer represents the price of the item in the shop, and your task is to double every value of the value of every element and return the array. Okay, fine. So let's look at the sample input. You're given the number of elements in the array followed by those many elements, and you are supposed to double every element. So 2 becomes 4, 7 becomes 14, and so on. Okay, now this is a straightforward problem, right? So you're given, let's say you have 1, 2, 7, 10, and then what, 11. So every element in the array. So we know that in an array, what is an array? An array is a set of elements um, which are stored sequentially, and each element can be accessed through its index. So the index generally it's zero based indexing. So the first element is associated with the index of 0, 1, 2, and then so on. So we have 5 elements here, so 0 to 4, right? So what we have to do is access every element using this index. So what we're going to do is array of 0, right? So array of 0 will become 2 times array of 0. Okay. Similarly, yeah, 2 times array of 0. Now similarly, array of 1 will become 2 times array of 1. And then it keeps on going like that. Now this problem isn't really hard, but you have to be familiar with the syntax. And yeah, the best way to get familiar with the syntax is through writing code. Now I'll just use Python because that's the simplest to understand the logic. But you can write it in your language of choice. And if you have any trouble with the syntax, feel free to Google or use any other resources after the contest is over. So what you have to do is, for every element in this array, you have to double the element, right? So what you can do is for I in range of length of array, right? Or what you can do is in Python, there's something called, you can just iterate through the element itself. So for every number, okay, we need the index as well. So, um, so for I in range of length of array, so we need the length of the array as well. So n is equal to length of the array. So that's how we get the length of the array in Python. So for I in range n, let me just show you what this range function does. So let's print I. So essentially what this does is, this is the boilerplate code, you can ignore that. Okay, so we have a runtime error, but okay, what is the error? And because we aren't returning anything, that is what the error is. So let's just return array for now. Yeah, but yeah, this will print out the indices, right? So what we're printing here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you look at this diagram, if you look at these indices, that is what we require, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is exactly what this range function does. So it takes in an input, and from 0 up to this number. So let's say this number is 5. So it will stop right before this number, which is 4. So it's going to print out, uh, it's going to iterate through, or iterate is another word for loop through. So 0, 1, 2, then it goes up to the nth number, n minus 1th number, right? Yeah, that is what this does. So what we're supposed to do is access that element using the index, and we have to double it. We have to double that element. So what we can do is array of I is equal to array of I plus array of I, and that is all we have to do. So let's try submitting it now. So this test case passes, so we can try submitting it. It will take a couple of seconds. Yeah, so all the test cases have been passed, and that is the solution for the first one. Okay, so moving on to the second problem, odd even sum. Let's see what this is. So given an array of n elements, sum of sum all the even numbers and all the odd numbers. So first line contains the size of the array n. Okay, that is how the input is given. We can just read the sample input and understand. So we have the number of elements again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. And what does the second line contain? So your function must return an array of size 2. First number should be the sum of odd numbers. Okay, there's a sum of odd numbers, there's a sum of even numbers. Now let's just verify it. So 4 plus 6 plus 8 is the sum of even numbers. So that is 16. 4 plus 6, 10 plus 8, it's 18. Yeah, not 16. So that is 18. Now it's 1 plus 3 plus 5, which is 1 plus 3, 4, and then 4 plus 5 is 9. So that is the right output, right? How do we code this up? This is pretty similar to the previous question. So what we're going to do is, so we have to return an array of length 2. Okay, so what we have to do is, we have to return an array of size 2. Okay, so initially, let's say these two are 0. Now what is the first example? So 46183, right? So this is the first example, 46183. Now the indices would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's say, so this is all the odd numbers, and this is all the even numbers, the sum. So sum of odd, sum of even. Now let's say we're iterating through this array. So first we get 4, right? Now what is 4? Is 4 an odd number or an even number? So if it's an even number, we change the second part of the array. So this in the index is 1. So this becomes 0 and 4. Now this is also an even number. So this becomes 0 and 10, right? And now if it's an odd number, so we update the first digit, first number in the array. So it becomes 110. Now if we keep going on, it becomes 110. I think I missed one element. 8, 3, and 5. Yeah, I missed 5 here. So this is index 5. Okay, and it becomes 110, 118, and then 1 plus 4 is 5. Sorry, 1 plus 3 is 4 and 18. And then we get finally 9 and 18, which is the required output. And this is what we have to return, right? Now let's code this up in Python. Where is this? Okay, fine. Let me just reset the code. Okay, so yeah, now it should be new. So write your code here, and that is where we'll write our code. So similar to the previous problem, we need the length of the array first. We don't need that, but yeah, I'll just do it the normal way. Now our result is an array of length 2, right? So result is equal to array, and initially both the elements let them be 0. So for I in range n, now if our current number is an even number or an odd number, we have to check that, right? Now we can check that using the modulus operation. So you must have learned this in your high school. So what the modulus operator does is it gives you the remainder, right? So whenever you divide something, so let's say you divide n divided by m. So you have something called as the quotient and the remainder. Remainder is r. So that is what the modulus operator gives. So if you do n mod m, so it gives you the remainder when you divide n with m. Okay, now when you divide anything with the number 2, if you have a remainder, that means it's an odd number. And if you don't have an remainder, that means the number is divisible by 2. So any number which is divisible by 2, will return 0. And that is how you know it's an even number. So if what you can do is, if array of I, that is how you access the ith element, mod 2, if it's equal to 0, so this is how you compare in Python, double equal to, and in most languages. So then what you have to do is, you have to increase the second element, right? So result of 1 is equal to uh, result of 1 plus array of I. Now, in case it's not an even number, then we just increase the first element. So result of 0 is equal to result of 0 plus array of I. And then we have to return our output array, which is result. Now I'm just calling it res here, which is the short notation. Now if we submit this, hopefully that should be right. We have no syntax errors, so lucky me, I guess. Yeah, and that passes all the test cases. So let's move on to the third problem now. Okay, so missing number. You are given an array containing n integers, right? So, but the numbers are supposed to be from 1 to n plus 1. One number is missing. Your task is to find the number and return the missing number. Okay, let's look at the sample input. That is how I usually understand the problem. So we have 5 as the number of input elements. Now we know that we're supposed to have 6 elements, but one of them is missing. So here we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 3 is missing, and that is what we have to return. Now you can do this in multiple ways, but the simplest thing that comes to my mind, which is also pretty fast, is think about it this way. So let's say we have one number missing, right? So let's say our input is 1, 3, 4. Okay, but we are missing the number 2. So the number 2 is missing. So what do we do? How can we solve this? Now, how I would like to think this is, let's say we have all the 4 numbers. Okay, now what is the sum of all these 4 numbers, right? The sum of all these numbers will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Now if you do the math which you have learned in your 11th and 12th grade, this is the sum. This is an arithmetic progression. So in short, we can call this an AP, and the difference is equal to, what is the difference equal to? 1. That is the difference between two elements. So which is an minus an plus 1 minus an is equal to the difference, which is 1. Now I don't want to get into the math behind this right now in this video. You can just Google it or something. Now the sum of the first n natural numbers is equal to n into n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, now this is the sum of the first n numbers. Okay, so we need so we need to find the n first. So let me get rid of this code first. Okay, now how do we find n? Now what do we do with the sum? So the sum of these 4 numbers is 4 plus 3 7 8 9 10, right? So the sum is equal to 10, and we know that our input array has 1, 3 and 4, and 2 is missing. Now from the sum, think about, from the sum and the input array, how do we find 2? Now if you subtract all these elements from the sum, total sum, so 10 minus 1 is equal to 9. Okay, 9 minus 3 is equal to 6, and 6 minus 4 is equal to 2. Now this is our required output, right? So from the total sum, total sum including the missing number, we subtract the sum of the inputs. So I'll just write INP plus in short, and then we have to return this as the output, which is the missing number. So that gives you the missing number. Okay, and that is what we require. So to find the sum, first I need to find the number of elements, the total number of elements. So if our input has 3 elements, 1 is missing. So 3 plus 1 is n, the required n, right? So what you can do is n is equal to 1 plus length of array, right? And now our sum is equal to, I don't want to get into the math in this video. So n into n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so what this double slash does is it's called integer division, right? So integer division is, let's say 5 divided by 2 in Python. So 5 divided by 2, we know that it's 2.5. But if you only want the integer part of any division, we use this double slash operator, which gives you 2. Now, for this particular division, you can use anything because n into n plus 1 will always be divisible by 2. Okay? Because if n is an odd number, n plus 1 is an even number. If n is an even number, n plus 1 is an odd number. Okay? Perfect. Now what we have to do is from the sum, we have to subtract every element in the array. Now this is the same again. So let's just say our length of the array is length of array. So for I in range. Now if you have watched the previous two solutions, this should be the same. So s is equal to s minus array of I. And in the end, we just have to return this missing number. So s after you subtract all the elements will be the missing number itself. So return s. Now let's try running this. It passes the sample test case. And yeah, so that is our solution for this problem. Okay. Now let's go to the fourth problem. Okay, Python. Yeah, this is new. And let's read the problem. So a group of students are standing in a line. Each student has a certain height. Your task is to find the second tallest student. Okay. And one thing to note is that all the heights are unique in the array. Okay. So for this problem, what you can do is you can have, let's say you have tallest, which is called T1. Let's say he's the tallest. And let's say T2 is the second tallest. Now initially let both of them be equal to 0. Okay. Now let us iterate through all the elements in the array. So 5, 3, 5, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, that is our input. So 5, 3, 5, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So 5, 2, 3, 4, and we have 1. Now, what we have to track, we just need the two tallest people. And after we have the two tallest people, we have to return the smaller number in among these two numbers, right? So what we can do is let's iterate through this array. So the indices are 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when we get 5, T1 is the tallest guy. So we check if 5 is greater than the tallest guy. If 5 is greater than the tallest guy, what do we have to do? One thing is for sure, we have to change the tallest guy to 5, right? No doubt about that. But let's say at some point in our in this, let's say the tallest guy already had the height of 1. Now if we replace, so let's say we had let's say our input, okay, let's say the tallest guy was 1 and the second tallest guy was 0. Now once we get 5, if we replace the tallest guy with 5, we get 5 and 0. But these two aren't the tallest because we know 1 is greater than 0. So what we have to do is, before replacing the tallest guy, we have to change the second tallest guy to the tallest guy's number, right? So we have 0 here and we remove that and make that 1. Okay, that is what we're going to do now. So initially we'll have so tallest guy is 5 and it becomes 5 and 0 in our first iteration or 0th iteration. Now in our first iteration we get 2, and we is 5 lesser than 2, or is 2 greater than 5? 2 is not greater than 5, and we check if 2 is greater than 0, which is true. So we change the second element. That is our first iteration. Okay, perfect. Now let me get some more space. Okay. Okay, in our second iteration, we check if 3 is greater than 5, which is not true, but 3 is greater than 2. So we get 5, 3. Now is 4 greater than 5? No. 4 greater than 3? Yeah. So 5, 4. Now 1 is lesser than both of them. Now we have 5 and 4. Now we have to return the second tallest guy. So we return T2. Okay, perfect. Now let's try coding this one. Okay. So let's do the same thing. Length of the array, and here it's called heights. Now we have two tall people, right? The top two tall people. So the tallest guy, where's my mouse? Okay. T1, let's say he has no height initially. T2 also has no height. Okay. So for in range heights, sorry, n, we check. So the first thing we have to do is, if heights of I is greater than the tallest guy, so we change the second tallest guy to the tallest guy, and then the tallest guy will become heights of I. Perfect. Now in case uh, if heights of I is greater than T2, okay, then we change the second tallest guy to heights of I. And in the end, we just have to return the second tallest druid, which is T2. So let's try submitting and check if it works. Perfect. And that seems to work. Let's wait for the result. Yeah. So all the test cases have been passed. And that is how you solve the third or fourth one. Okay, that was the fourth problem. Okay, yeah. So this was the solution video. If you have any doubts, feel free to reach out. Leave a comment below. I will definitely reply to all of them. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day.